All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So we're in the middle of the NFL Combine, and we're getting these reports, right? Some pretty interesting reports when we talk about, of course, what the reports are actually about, but also the timing of it all. And it makes me wonder, like, man, I wonder if we could actually see a shakeup up at the top of the draft where a team moves up to slot number one. And this video isn't, necessarily talking about the Jets. Of course, they could be a team that does trade up. Although I know not everyone's on board with that. I mean, you can argue that trading down is actually the best option for this team. But that's a separate video. For me, again, just kind of in that NFL draft combine mode, I wanted to focus in on the top three picks here. Because one thing that I've been really, really, really impressed with is how Mike Borgonzi has handled interviews, handled the press conference, right? When talking about the number one overall pick, he's essentially covering every base. Yeah, we can take the best player available. He's not ruling out quarterbacks. He could trade down. He can stick at one and pick a player. He's leaving everything out there. And about a week ago, we started hearing more and more rumors and actually more and more mock drafts with the Cleveland Browns selecting a quarterback at spot number 2, specifically Cam Ward. We just had Mel Kiper mock Cam Ward to the Browns in his mock draft 2.0. We also look back a couple days ago, Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network, also Cam Ward to the Cleveland Browns. And at first, right, like when the season was wrapping up, you're looking at all these different mock drafts, including Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper, and some other draft insiders as well, and it wasn't really being talked about. Right, like the Browns selecting a quarterback. And then we had Adam Schefter drop the bombshell on ESPN, basically saying that the thing that he's the most confident in, or let me actually find the exact quote here. Okay, so he said, the thing that I feel most comfortable and confident about in this upcoming draft is the Cleveland Browns at number 2 will wind up taking a quarterback. Because they have to. Because logic dictates that. Because common sense dictates that. If the Titans decide that they're not going to go quarterback and they're going to go with a generational player like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, that leaves the Cleveland Browns with with the option of whichever quarterback they deem to be the best quarterback in this upcoming draft. Now, obviously, that is a huge, just, again, bombshell of information here. But again, it kind of makes me think a little bit, right? Because the timing of it is so odd. It's not like Cam Ward went to Berea and visited, Stefanski and had a private workout there, and then they walk away. Oh my God, this guy's totally impressive. Like, this needs to be the number 2 pick. It's not like Cam Ward has had his pro day, right? I believe the only meeting between the two parties has been at the NFL Combine. And how long is that? 15 or 20 minutes? Maybe up to 30 minutes? But I think that's stretching it, so based off of that interview and the tape that we have, because the tape is the tape, right? We've known how Cam Ward has looked in specific games. We know how the season went. The Browns finished with the 2nd overall pick. They lost a lot of games and they have a hole at the quarterback position. So you got to imagine that something changed. It can't be something as simple. Because look, the Browns front office has been there for such a long time. The coaching staff has been there for a long time. It's not as simple as the Browns just realizing Cam Ward is worthy of a top 2 pick. And they're like, actually, you know what? We're going to lean in this direction. It kind of feels like there was a trigger point along the way. And again, that combine interview took place 24 hours ago, right? As far as the time of this recording. And when we really started hearing a lot of the Cam Ward Cleveland Browns buzz, it was a couple days ago, right? Start of the week. So the timing of it all is just a little bit weird to me. And, if we're just sitting here, and I was thinking about this last night at like 1 a.m., just trying to go to sleep, could this be a potential manipulation of the media, right? Now, I could see 2 potential scenarios taking place. But before we dive any further, I did want to give a special shout out to today's video sponsor, SeatGeek, the number 1 rated ticketing app, right? Over 70,000 live events, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, concerts, you name it. It's probably on SeatGeek, right? They have this great numbering system. And this is what I'm always talking about, but it's my favorite thing about the app. Green is good, red, not so good, right? It's a number scale based off of course, price, but also location in the stadium. So if you're checking out and you are, feeling good about the price and they are green 10s, that's considered a great deal. Whereas if you're checking out and you have like a red 1, you're like, oh, like let me try to find a better option, a better ticket within the stadium. And of course, it's a 1 to 10 scale. But if you use code Jetscentral, you'll get $20 off your first purchase with SeatGeek. And again, thanks so much for sponsoring the video. Let's start with scenario number 1. I'm not saying that this one is more likely than the other, but it kind of goes back to the start of the video talking about Mike Borgonzi and the Tennessee Titans. Right now, I'm kind of viewing that number 1 overall pick as they can go in 4 different options and be better off. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter. It's looking right now like Abdul Carter is probably going to be the pick if the draft was tomorrow. Right? Obviously, it's not, but those are where the mock drafts, that's kind of the indication at this point in time. Abdul Carter would obviously be a huge boost for that, for that Titans defense. The other thing that we've heard about this Tennessee Titans team is that they are looking to move down. They would ideally like to accumulate more draft picks. There's, a lot of roster holes on this team. Mike Borgonzi, first year in the mix. To compete in the AFC, you got to roll out a good team. If you can scoop up a 2026 first round pick and an extra maybe second round pick in this year's class, yes, this isn't considered the best quarterback class, but still, it's the number 1 overall pick, and you have your choice between literally every player in the draft. It's going to cost a lot of draft equity to get up to that first overall spot. So, could this be the Tennessee Titans simply putting this story out there? Hey, Cam Ward, Cleveland Browns, Cam Ward, Cleveland Browns. In other words, if you want Cam Ward, if you want maybe, Shedeur Sanders or a quarterback, you got to trade with us. Oh, and it just so happens that we are looking to move down. We are interested in moving down. I'm not going to go as far as to say we prefer to trade down because I don't have that information, but we do know it's on the table. Could that be unfolding? I think it's totally realistic. Now, the second scenario here is by the Cleveland Browns standpoint, right? Could the Browns be manipulating and working behind the scenes to put this narrative out there? Because one thing that we did here in Todd McShay's first mock draft was that he's not really buying into the quarterback to the Browns at spot number 2. Because based off of his sources, Kirk Cousins to the Cleveland Browns is likely, right? Very likely. And it makes sense, right? Because the Browns don't have a lot of money to spend. Stefanski's kind of in this win now type of mode. Like, he needs to improve off of last season. Ideally, a veteran quarterback makes sense and a quarterback that fits the system. Kirk Cousins is literally would check all 4 of those boxes. And then you throw on top of it that Stefanski and Cousins actually know each other, and Cousins has worked in the system before. So that does make a lot of sense. And so again, it kind of got me thinking, okay, well, if McShay is the outlier here saying, he's not really buying into it, but then we have, the other top dogs, the Kuipers, the Jeremiahs, the Adam Schefters. Could this be Cleveland putting this out there, right? Cam Ward. Could Cleveland essentially force a team beneath them to trade up to the number 1 overall pick? Now, you can take your pick on whoever you want, right? Any quarterback needy team out there. But the team that I want to focus in on is the New York Giants. Why the Giants? Well, first off, they are completely desperate in multiple areas. They need a quarterback. No DeVito. No Drew Lock, no Daniel Jones. They are desperate to win. Brian Daboll and Joe Shane are both on the hot seat. You just had the Washington Commanders have this quick turnaround with their brand new rookie quarterback. I'm sure that's not sitting well with Mara. You have the Eagles winning the Super Bowl with Saquon Barkley. I'm sure that's not sitting well with him. The Giants, they cannot go out there and win 4 or 5 games next season. It's just simply not an option for these two football minds in Shane and Daboll. You're also starting to listen to some of the Stafford rumors, right? And how valid are the Stafford rumors anyway? I personally think that he could, there's a really high chance that he just sticks with the Rams, but also do the Raiders make a move? We had the whole weird story about Brady and Stafford at the ski resort. I think the whole Stafford to the Giants thing, that's clearly not a done deal. Could it happen? Sure. But, it's not, there's not many quarterback options this offseason. And if you're a team like the Jets or the Saints, you don't have to rush it. You don't have to be panicking trying to figure out the quarterback position. Why? Because they have two brand new head coaches stepping into the mix, and Aaron Glenn and Kellen Moore here. They have time. They have time to figure out what the plan, what the right move there. But Brian Daboll's been here for years. Joe Schoen has been here for years. So if Matt Stafford potentially sticks with the Rams or gets traded to the Raiders, and of course, by the way, tons of hypotheticals in this video. I just figured it would just be fun to kind of speculate on it. Just get everyone's thoughts out there. I would love to hear, where you stand down below in the comment section. And so again, you have this team that is desperate to figure out the QB position, desperate to win games, desperate to turn it around. Jobs are on the line. And then also they're picking third in the draft. So it's not like Tennessee would have to slot down to 19, 25, right? They're only moving down a handful of spots. What we were talking about before, I feel comfortable with the Titans selecting one of those four guys, Sanders, Ward, Carter, or Hunter. If that's the case and the Titans have that third overall pick, they will land at least one of those options. And of course, who's to say they won't move down again? But, for the sake of this hypothetical, they make sense to slot down to spot number 3 because they're going to get a blue chip player anyway, or they can land one of the quarterbacks that they would just take anyway with the number 1 overall pick. And so here's the big question to kind of tie it all together. Why would the Browns be doing this? Why are the Browns putting it out there, right, that they want Cam Ward? Again, just living in this hypothetical world. I think if we start paying attention to the latest Myles Garrett reports suggesting that he doesn't want anything to do with the Cleveland Browns. He does not want to play for the Cleveland Browns. The trade request is official. He's focused on winning. He's focused on getting out of that situation. And it really feels like the Browns are dug in with wanting to keep him. There was a story that came out today, actually, about Myles Garrett not willing to restructure his deal, not willing to dive into the contract details with the Cleveland Browns, essentially making it harder on them in a potential rekindling. So in the event that the Cleveland Browns are almost forced to trade Myles Garrett, who would be the ideal, realistic replacement? Abdul Carter. And again, who is the player, which prospect is being mocked number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans right now? It's Abdul Carter. So in a sense, if the Titans are cool, they're on board with getting Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter or one of the other quarterbacks, but more specifically looking to accumulate picks, this could work out beautifully for Cleveland because all of a sudden if they start pumping up the Cam Ward rumors, start hyping them up, oh, we're really interested, and the Giants are like, geez, we really want Cam Ward. We hope he falls to us at 3. We cannot have another miss at the quarterback position. So from ownership, there's so much pressure here. We got to figure it out. If it's only going to take a handful of picks to go have our choice with the number 1 overall selection, let's just make it happen. Right? Could Cleveland be in that mindset, which would then allow Abdul Carter to fall to them at spot number 2, freeing up Myles Garrett. And by the way, I'm not saying Abdul Carter is on the same level as a Myles Garrett, because I don't think so. Myles Garrett he looks bound to be, I want to say potentially a Hall of Famer. Like that's how good of a player Myles Garrett is, especially if he goes to a team like Detroit or one of these organizations that they can get to the Super Bowl. Like Myles Garrett's just an absolute beast. Carter's a beast too, but I think Garrett's the better player. But again, from a realistic standpoint, could Cleveland be trying to spin that narrative? We want Ward. We want Ward. In other words, behind the scenes, someone else please trade up to take him number 1 overall so Carter falls to us at spot number 2. And then Tennessee's kicking it. They're totally fine anyway because they got their bounty of picks. They still have the 3rd overall pick. We can go out and draft Travis Hunter, help out both on offense and defense, the best player in the draft in my opinion. Or if they are hell-bent on quarterback, Shedeur Sanders fits that system really, really well with Callahan. I think there were a lot of losses last year where it came down to just a couple of boneheaded mistakes from Will Levis, which I just don't see Sanders making those same mistakes at the NFL level. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section on this. Figured it would just be kind of a fun, speculatory type of video. Do you think there's any truth to it? Do you actually think that and by the way, Cam Ward to the Browns makes a lot of sense too. It really does. When you start factoring in contracts and Deshaun Watson tearing his Achilles again, so he's not even going to be an option for this upcoming season. They're, I believe right now, $20 or $21 million over the cap, so you can't really, they're not going to go out and sign Justin Fields or Sam Darnold. You know, that's just not in the. They're not trading for Matt Stafford. They just can't afford it. So it's really like Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson on like a vet minimum, or, you know, number 2 overall pick here. Unless, of course, they're blown away with, you know, maybe a developmental quarterback that they can stash. But, you know, again, it kind of goes back to the whole Stefanski element. There's pressure for Stefanski to win. You know, do you think he would really want to essentially mortgage his head coaching career on the shoulders of Jackson Dart or Kyle McCord or a developmental quarterback in the top of round 2? I don't know. That seems like a big question mark to me. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I think, man, it's tough. It's tough to kind of, and by the way, this is the perfect time of year where you have all the agents, all the teams, all the media in one location. It's the best time to start, you know, if you were to manipulate the media, like if you're a general manager out there and you want to maybe have an ideal situation, you want the draft to maybe play out like, or even in free agency, you can now start getting these stories out there a lot easier and more efficiently than you would otherwise. Maybe, you know, 3 weeks ago or something like that. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much. And as always, go Jets.